Word list 49. Volatile. Changeable, explosive, evaporating rapidly. The political climate today is extremely volatile. No one can predict what the electorate will do next. Maria Callas's temper was extremely volatile. The only thing you could predict was that she was sure to blow up. Acetone is an extremely volatile liquid, it evaporates instantly. Volition. Act of making a conscious choice. She selected this dress of her own volition. Voluble. Fluent, glib, talkative. The excessively voluble speaker suffers from logorrhea, he runs off at the mouth a lot. Voluminous. Bulky, large. A kaftan is a voluminous garment, most people wearing one look as if they're draped in a small tent. Voluptuous. Gratifying the senses. The nobility during the Renaissance led voluptuous lives. Voracious. Ravenous. The wolf is a voracious animal, its hunger never satisfied. Vortex. Whirlwind, whirlpool, center of turbulence, predicament into which one is inexorably plunged. Sucked into the vortex of the tornado, Dorothy and Toto were carried from Kansas to Oz. Vouchsafe. Grant, choose to give in reply, permit. Occasionally the rock star would drift out onto the balcony and vouchsafe the crowd below a glimpse of her celebrated features. The professor vouchsafed not a word to the students' questions about what would be covered on the test. Voyeur. Peeping Tom. Nancy called her brother a voyeur when she caught him aiming his binoculars at an upstairs window of the house of the newlyweds next door. Vulnerable. Susceptible to wounds. His opponents could not harm Achilles, who was vulnerable only in his heel. Waffle. Speak equivocally about an issue. When asked directly about the governor's involvement in the savings and loan scandal, the press secretary waffled, talking all around the issue. Waft. Moved gently by wind or waves. Daydreaming, he gazed at the leaves that wafted past his window. Waggish. Mischievous, humorous, tricky. He was a prankster who, unfortunately, often overlooked the damage he could cause with his waggish tricks. Waif. Homeless child or animal. Although he already had 8 cats, he could not resist adopting yet another feline waif. Wave. Give up temporarily, yield. I will waive my rights in this matter in order to expedite our reaching a proper decision. Wake. Trail of ship or other object through water, path of something that has gone before. The wake of the swan gliding through the water glistened in the moonlight. Reporters and photographers converged on South Carolina in the wake of the hurricane that devastated much of the eastern seaboard. Wallow. Roll in, indulge in, become helpless. The hippopotamus loves to wallow in the mud. Wan. Having a pale or sickly color, pallid. Suckling asked, why so pale and wan, fond lover? Wane. Decrease in size or strength, draw gradually to an end. When lit, does a wax candle wane? Wanton. Unrestrained, willfully malicious, unchaste. Pointing to the stack of bills, Sheldon criticized Sarah for her wanton expenditures. In response, Sarah accused Sheldon of making an unfounded, wanton attack. Warble. Sing, babble. Every morning the birds warbled outside her window. Warrant. Justify, authorize. Before the judge issues the injunction, you must convince her this action is warranted. Warranty. Guarantee, assurance by seller. The purchaser of this automobile is protected by the manufacturer's warranty that the company will replace any defective part for 5 years or miles. Wary. Very cautious. The spies grew wary as they approached the sentry. Wastrel. Profligate. His neighbors denounced him as a wastrel who had dissipated his inheritance. Watershed. Crucial dividing point. The invention of the personal computer proved a historic watershed, for it opened the way to today's information age. Wax. Increase, grow. With proper handling, his fortunes waxed and he became rich. Waylay. Ambush, lie in wait. They agreed to waylay their victim as he passed through the dark alley going home. Wean. Accustom a baby to not nurse, give up a cherished activity. He decided he would wean himself away from eating junk food and stick to fruits and vegetables. Weather. Endure the effects of weather or other forces. He weathered the changes in his personal life with difficulty, as he had no one in whom to confide. Welter. Turmoil, bewildering jumble. The existing welter of overlapping federal and state programs cries out for immediate reform. Wheedle. Cajole, coax, deceive by flattery. She knows she can wheedle almost anything she wants from her father. Whelp. Young wolf, dog, tiger, etc. This collie whelp won't do for breeding, but he'd make a fine pet. Wet. Sharpen, stimulate. The odors from the kitchen are whetting my appetite. I will be ravenous by the time the meal is served. Whiff. Puff or gust, of air, scent, etc. Hint. The slightest whiff of Old Spice cologne brought memories of George to her mind. Whimsical. Capricious, fanciful. In Mrs. Doubtfire, the hero is a playful, whimsical man who takes a notion to dress up as a woman so that he can look after his children, who are in the custody of his ex-wife. Whinny. Neigh like a horse. When he laughed through his nose, it sounded as if he whinnied. Whittle. Bear, cut off bits. As a present for Aunt Polly, Tom whittled some clothespins out of a chunk of wood. Willful. Intentional, headstrong. Donald had planned to kill his wife for months. Clearly, her death was a case of deliberate, willful murder, not a crime of passion committed by a hasty, willful youth unable to foresee the consequences of his deeds. Wily. Cunning, artful. She is as wily as a fox in avoiding trouble. Wince. Shrink back, flinch. The screech of the chalk on the blackboard made her wince. Windfall. Unexpected lucky event. This huge tax refund is quite a windfall. Winnow. Sift, separate good parts from bad. This test will winnow out the students who study from those who don't bother. winsome, agreeable, gracious, engaging. By her winsome manner, she made herself liked by everyone who met her. Wispy, thin, slight, barely discernible. Worried about preserving his few wispy tufts of hair, Walter carefully massaged his scalp and applied hair restorer every night. Wistful, vaguely longing, sadly thoughtful. With a last wistful glance at the happy couples dancing in the hall, Sue headed back to her room to study for her exam. Withdrawn, introverted, remote. Rebuffed by his colleagues, the initially outgoing young researcher became increasingly withdrawn. Wither, shrivel, decay. Cut flowers are beautiful for a day, but all too soon they wither. Withhold, refuse to give, hold back. The tenants decided to withhold a portion of the rent until the landlord kept his promise to renovate the building. Withstand, stand up against, successfully resist. If you can withstand all the peer pressure in high school to cut classes and goof off, you should survive college just fine. Witless, foolish, idiotic. If Beavis is a half-wit, then Butthead is totally witless. Witticism, witty saying, wisecrack. I don't mean any criticism, but that last witticism totally hurt my feelings. Wizardry, sorcery, magic. Merlin the magician amazed the knights with his wizardry. Woe, deep, inconsolable grief, affliction, suffering. Pale and wan with grief, Wanda was bowed down beneath the burden of her woes. Worldly, engrossed in matters of this earth, not spiritual. You must leave your worldly goods behind you when you go to meet your Maker. Wrath, anger, fury. She turned to him, full of wrath, and said, "What makes you think I'll accept lower pay for this job than you get?" Wrench, pull, strain, twist. She wrenched free of her attacker and landed a powerful kick to his kneecap. Writhe, twist in coils, contort in pain. In dances with snakes, the snake dancer wriggled sinuously as her boa constrictor writhed around her torso. Wry, twisted, with a humorous twist. We enjoy Dorothy Parker's verse for its wry wit. Xenophobia, fear or hatred of foreigners. When the refugee arrived in America, he was unprepared for the xenophobia he found there. Yield, give in, surrender. The wounded knight refused to yield to his foe. Yield, amount produced, crop, income on investment. An experienced farmer can estimate the annual yield of his acres with surprising accuracy. Yoke, join together, unite. I don't wish to be yoked to him in marriage, as if we were cattle pulling a plow. Your time passed. He dreamed of the elegant homes of yore, but gave no thought to their inelegant plumbing. Zany, crazy, comic. I can watch the Marx Brothers' zany antics for hours. Zeal, eager enthusiasm. Catch's zeal was contagious. Soon all her fellow students were busily making posters, inspired by her ardent enthusiasm for the cause. Zealot, fanatic, Person who shows excessive zeal. Though Glenn was devout, he was no zealot, he never tried to force his beliefs on his friends. Zenith. Point directly overhead in the sky, summit. When the sun was at its zenith, the glare was not as strong as at sunrise and sunset. Zephyr. Gentle breeze, west wind. When these zephyrs blow, it is good to be in an open boat under a full sail. Finished.